It looks like Suge Knight's hate for Dr. Dre just keeps getting stronger because he's been airing out some wild secrets about him, from accusing Dre of putting a hit on him not once but twice.
Because, for a fact, Dre gave people money and a check to kill me.
To even claiming Dre tried to take out both Eazy and his mother.
All the great things that Eazy did for Andre meant nothing to him. He wanted his man brutally dead, and he wanted his mother dead.
Let's get into it. So, in his recent jailhouse interviews, Suge Knight has been making some wild claims, one of the biggest being that Dr. Dre actually tried to have him offed during the filming of Straight Outta Compton.
So, when they called me and I put up that tail, they was paid to kill me.
Now, Suge is currently serving nearly 3 decades in prison for running over 2 men, Terry Carter and CLE Bone Sloan, after an argument at Tam's Burgers. Terry Carter unfortunately didn't make it.
The video obtained by TMZ shows the January 29th incident where Knight's truck apparently runs over the 2 men. The truck backs up, hits 1 man. Seconds later, the truck comes back and runs over.
At the time, Suge had actually sued Dr. Dre, claiming that Dre put a hit out on him because of an unpaid deal they had. Supposedly, Dre had agreed to give Suge 30% of his earnings for life, including a cut of the massive $3 billion Apple deal when they bought Beats by Dre in 2014.
Basically, Suge is saying that he had a lifetime management deal with Dre, where he would get 30% of everything that Dre made in entertainment over the course of Dre's life.
But instead of paying up, Dre allegedly denied the contract altogether, and according to Suge, decided to eliminate him instead.
Dre did not pay Suge the money, and Suge says that he basically disavowed the contract and then wanted to kind of get rid of the problem.
In his recent interview, Suge claims that Dre paid one of the security guys on set $20,000 to take him out, and that's what led to the confrontation at Tam's Burgers.
He gave guys extra money. One guy got a check for $20,000, and he went to the bank to cash it. When they asked the guy, why did you get a $20,000 check? He said, because he gave me $20,000 to kill Suge Knight.
He insists that when they tried to kill him, he acted in self-defense, and the tragedy that followed wasn't intentional. In Suge's eyes, he shouldn't even be in prison because he was just trying to survive.
And you get spooked and can't do the job, and somebody get hurt, somebody even lose their life by accident. So do that mean I'm supposed to go to prison? If it was anybody else, they wouldn't be in prison.
But according to Suge, this wasn't even the first time Dre allegedly tried to have him offed. He says that the first attempt on his life happened at a pre-VMA party hosted by Chris Brown where he was shot 7 times.
Right before that happened, I got shot 7 times.
That night, Suge somehow managed to walk out of the club on his own. He was eventually put in an ambulance and taken to the hospital.
There was a pre-VMA party in Los Angeles, and a rapper by the name of Suge Knight got shot 6 times and had to be taken to the hospital after that took place.
Suge Knight. Suge Knight.
Now, according to Suge, it was after he found out Dre was allegedly behind the shooting that he decided to confront him about it, leading him to the set of Straight Outta Compton. That, according to him, is when the second attempt happened, the one that led to the death of Terry Carter.
In Compton, when they were doing the Straight Outta Compton promotion videos, and Dre was supposedly going to meet Dre, that's when Suge ended up at the Tams parking lot, and he says he was ambushed, and it was all at the behest of Dre.
But as wild as those claims are, Suge took it even further by saying that Dr. Dre also tried to have Eazy-E and even Eazy's mother offed. Now, we've all heard the infamous story of how Suge allegedly strong-armed Eazy into letting Dre go. But according to Suge, that's not how it went down at all. He claims there was no need to intimidate Eazy because they actually had a real conversation.
I didn't have to intimidate her. I had a real conversation with Eazy. I said, look, man, this is a situation.
In fact, Suge says they even discussed the possibility of merging their record labels.
I said, I got at you as a man to man, one black man to the other, and say, you can keep Ruthless. I'm going to have Death Row. We can combine them together.
According to Suge, Eazy was skeptical at first and wanted to know where Dre stood before making any decisions. But Suge told him straight up, Eazy, you don't want to see Dre. Supposedly, Dre didn't just want to leave Ruthless. Suge claims Dre actually wanted Eazy-E dead.
He said, well, he wanted to know where Andre was at. I said, you don't want to involve Andre. That motherfucker wants you dead.
Eazy didn't believe it at first. He allegedly told Suge that after everything he had done for Dre, there was no way Dre would turn on him like that.
He was like, nah. When he didn't have no money, I was taking care of him, paying his rent. I bought the equipment. I paid for the studio times.
Suge says he just nodded and agreed to prove it. That's when he called Dre and put the phone on speaker. And according to Suge, the moment Dre picked up, he didn't even say hello. He just straight up asked if Eazy was dead.
So I called Andre. He answered. The first thing he said, is that motherfucker dead yet?
Suge says he motioned for Eazy to stay quiet and kept the conversation going. Dre allegedly kept pushing, asking again if Eazy was gone yet. When Suge finally said Eazy was on his way over, Dre supposedly told him to beat up Eazy and shoot him.
He wanted me to beat the of him, shoot him in the head, and shoot him in his eye.
But it didn't stop there. Suge claims he baited Dre a little, bringing up how Eazy's mother would feel if her son was murdered like that. And according to Suge, Dre didn't flinch. He allegedly said that Suge could kill Eazy's mother too.
I said, you don't think his mother gonna feel bad enough that he dead, that if I shoot him in his eye and shoot him in his mouth and his face, they're gonna have to have a closed casket funeral? He's like, you can go that too. You know she stayed right on Compton.
Suge says that's when he saw something shift in Eazy. The tough, ruthless CEO of Ruthless Records wasn't just angry, he was heartbroken. Suge even claims Eazy shed a tear right then and there.
I never in my life seen a grown man look so sad. If it weren't for me, he wouldn't have nothing. He wouldn't be nothing. He want me dead. And my mama? Tears flowed down.
Now, if Suge was really the villain in this story, he could have followed through with Dre's alleged orders. But according to him, seeing Eazy like that made him change his mind.
Even if I was gonna whoop Eric's ass, everything was out the window.
He decided to handle things like a businessman instead. He gave Eazy an option. They could settle this in court or handle it right there. Eazy, feeling like he had no other choice, signed the papers on the spot, officially letting Dre go.
We can take care of this now. He chose to take care of it then. He signed the paperwork.
Suge admits he felt like he was doing the devil's work that day, but at the same time, he justifies it by saying that he actually saved Eazy and his mother's life. He claims that if Dre had asked someone else to do the job, Eazy might not have made it out alive that day.
The other part of me justifies it, saying, I didn't whoop Eazy. I didn't kill Eric. I didn't let nothing happen to him. Because if Andre would have told the wrong person, Eazy would have been a dead mother at that point. Now,
Suge has a history of making some outlandish statements, especially when it comes to Dre, because we all know how much Suge hates Dre. He's always got a story to tell, and none of these claims have ever been proven to be true. But still, it's crazy to even hear this stuff being said out loud. But here's the thing, some people are saying that even if there's some truth to it, maybe Dre had a reason. After all, Suge put Dre through a lot back in the Death Row days. Dr. Dre and Suge Knight's partnership kicked off back in 1991 when they linked up through a mutual friend. At the time, Dre was desperate to get out of Ruthless Records. Jerry Heller had lost control of the situation, and Dre was frustrated with how things were being run. He wanted out. That's when Suge stepped in with a plan. Why not start a new label together? Suge pitched the idea to Dre, telling him that he could focus on doing what he did best, scouting talent and producing music, while Suge would handle the business side, overseeing finances and operations. For Dre, this sounded like the perfect setup. He didn't want to deal with the politics of running a label. He just wanted to make music, so he agreed. But there was one problem. Dre was still contractually tied to Ruthless Records, and getting out of that contract wasn't going to be easy, at least not without Suge's help. In true Suge fashion, he handled things his own way. He allegedly threatened Eazy-E, which ultimately forced him to release Dre from his contract. Of course, Eazy didn't walk away empty-handed. He managed to negotiate a deal where he would receive 20% of all Death Row material moving forward. So while Dre was free to start fresh, Eazy was still making money off of anything that came out of Death Row. Once Death Row was up and running, things took off fast. From 1992 to 1995, everything seemed to be going smoothly. Dre dropped his legendary debut album, The Chronic, in 1992, which became a massive success and solidified Death Row as a major player in the industry. But the peace didn't last forever. In 1995, things started to shift, big time. That year, at the Source Awards, Suge made his now infamous speech where he took direct shots at Diddy.
I want to stay a star. I don't want to have to worry about the executive producer trying to be all in the video, all on the record, dancing. Come to Death Row.
This moment fueled tensions in the rap industry, especially as the East Coast versus West Coast rivalry started heating up. Around the same time, Suge made another power move, getting Tupac Shakur out of prison and signing him to Death Row. Once Pac was on board, Death Row's atmosphere became even more intense. Pac and Suge started openly fueling the East Coast versus West Coast war, throwing shots at Bad Boy Records and stirring up even more controversy. But it wasn't just in the music. Suge's influence extended into the streets, where he was constantly making threats and instigating drama. For Dre, this was a problem. He had signed up to create music, not to be caught up in street politics and constant beef. The negativity surrounding Death Row made it nearly impossible for him to work in a creative, peaceful environment. What was once a thriving label focused on groundbreaking music had turned into a battlefield. And for Dre, that was the last straw.
It was mostly just the way the studio was, and that's where I have to spend most of my time.
This East Coast, West Coast nonsense is just getting ridiculous, It's just like another form of black-on-black crime.
According to Dre himself, he sank into depression and started heavily drinking and smoking weed just to cope with everything. But that wasn't all. There were also allegations of domestic abuse. His then-girlfriend, R&B singer Michelle, later claimed that Dre had been physically abused toward her, even going as far as to break her nose. And if things weren't already bad enough between Dre and Suge, there were rumors that Michelle had gotten involved with Suge Knight. That definitely didn't help their already crumbling relationship.
That it was over Michelle. Suge was fucking on Michelle, and Dre said, "This dude, you can have everything, I'm gone."
But the real breaking point for Dre came after Tupac's death in 1996. With Pac gone, the entire label felt like it was spiraling into something even darker than before. Suge was still running things with an iron fist, and the negativity that surrounded Death Row became too much for Dre to handle. He realized he had to get out. That's when Jimmy Iovine stepped in. Through legal means, he helped Dre break free from Death Row, allowing him to move on and start something new. That something new turned out to be Aftermath Entertainment. Dre leaving was a massive blow to Death Row, but things got even worse for Suge when Snoop Dogg followed suit just a year later. With Dre and Snoop both gone, Death Row lost its biggest stars. And if there's one thing Suge never handled well, it was losing control. He wanted revenge. One of the first things Suge did was try to mess with Dre's music. In the late 90s, Dre was working on a follow-up to The Chronic, tentatively called The Chronic 2000. But before Dre could release it, Suge pulled a petty move. He rushed out an album with that exact name just to block Dre from using it. Because of this, Dre had to rename his project, which is how we ended up with 2001. The album that would go on to become one of his most iconic works.
Suge Knight, he was trying to get to Dr. Dre, so he came out with an album called The Chronic 2000 to try to get to Dr. Dre, to try to get under his skin. That's the reason why he came out with the album. Yeah.
But Suge didn't stop there. Over the years, he held on to a deep resentment for Dre, and whenever he got the chance, he tried to intimidate people in Dre's circle, including Eminem and 50 Cent. Take, for example, the time when 50 Cent was filming the music video for In Da Club. Out of nowhere, someone yelled, "Suge Knight is here." That single sentence threw the entire set into chaos. Suge showed up with about 30 men, reportedly members of a Mexican gang.
This is why I always respected Eminem, 50, and that was with us. So Suge came, he had some Mexican. We from New York. You ain't never seen a nigga with a tattoo on his forehead. He just lights the cigar, and it's the about Suge. He light the cigar, and he trying to see what you gonna do. So Eminem, 50, everybody outside.
It was a classic Suge move, rolling up with a squad, trying to intimidate everyone on the scene. Then there's the story from the 2001 Source Awards, which could have gone south real fast. Eminem was there performing with his group D12, and like any major awards show, the vibe was already tense. Normally, artists could have their bodyguards nearby at these events, but for some reason, the rules that night required bodyguards to sit separately from the artists. That left M in a vulnerable spot, which Suge and his crew didn't hesitate to exploit.
The way they had it set up, the bodyguards could not sit with their artists. You had to stand off to the side.
According to Eminem's former bodyguard, Big Naz, things got sketchy fast. M ended up surrounded by a group of intimidating guys wearing red shirts, a clear signal they were affiliated with the Bloods, the gang Suge Knight was known to have ties to. Big Naz quickly realized something was off and sprinted across the venue to get to Eminem. He said it was obvious these guys had been sent by Suge.
And M was cut off on his way to his seat, and all these guys in red shirts surrounded him. And I'm looking at M's face, and I'm looking at these guys. I'm like, you see all these guys talking about death row, motherfucker, death row. Death row, motherfucker, death row. So by this time, I cut in, I step in front of M, I push the guys back. I'm like, yo, what the f going on here, man? I was like, death row, what does it got to do with him? He said, hey, man, Suge sent him a message.
Things between Suge Knight and Eminem escalated to a whole new level during a crazy incident in Hawaii. According to Eminem's former bodyguard, Big Naz, there was some serious intel that Suge had plans to harm Eminem during an event that was supposed to be nothing more than a casual getaway. But this wasn't just some vague low-key threat. Apparently, Suge sent more than 50 of his guys all the way from Los Angeles to Hawaii. Their goal was to disrupt what should have been a relaxed gathering with Eminem, Snoop Dogg, and Dr. Dre. What was supposed to be a peaceful vacation turned into anything but. The entire vibe flipped the moment they touched down. Instead of sunbathing and sipping cocktails, the group found themselves on high alert, bracing for a possible confrontation. Everyone involved, Eminem, Snoop, Dre, and their wives, had to gear up like they were heading into battle. Bulletproof vests became part of their daily wardrobe, and firearms were kept close by just in case. The situation was so tense that even the Honolulu Police Department had to get involved, assigning officers to shadow Eminem and the rest of the crew for protection. Big Naz later opened up about just how surreal the experience was. "We thought it was going to be a vacation," he said, "but it turned into a huge problem. We had our wives with us, some people even brought their kids. The second we got off the plane, it was chaos. Honolulu police had to escort us, and we were rushed to a transport van with everyone, kids, wives, and all."
We ended up getting escorted by Honolulu police, man.
He even attempted to go after Dre directly. It all went down at around 7:25 p.m. at the 2004 Vibe Awards, just as Dr. Dre was about to receive the Lifetime Achievement Award from Snoop Dogg and Quincy Jones.
Tonight, to honor somebody that I love and I respect most close to, Dr. Dre.
Out of nowhere, a man named Jimmy James Johnson approached Dre, acting like he just wanted an autograph. But instead of pulling out a pen, he threw a punch right at Dre, catching everyone off guard. The place instantly erupted into a full-on brawl. People were pushing, shoving, and even throwing chairs as the situation spiraled out of control. Reports say around 1,000 people from the audience rushed toward the exits, trying to get away from the madness. And right in the middle of it all was young Buck from G Unit, armed with a knife. Witnesses saw him swinging it, and later it was confirmed that he had stabbed Johnson in defense of Dre.
Suddenly, you could see a shiny knife in his right hand. He lunges over the top with a stabbing motion. Police say that is 23-year-old young Buck, who then vanished.
But Buck wasn't the only one who got to Johnson. Multiple people attacked him that night. It got so bad that arrest warrants were issued for Buck, and he was facing some serious legal trouble.
The entertainer, also known as Young Buck, was charged in connection with an attack Monday night at the Vibe Awards.
Mr. Brown was arrested for 1 count of attempted murder and 1 count of assault with a deadly weapon.
Now, while no one could say for sure if Suge Knight was behind the attack, it definitely looked suspicious. According to Tony Yayo, the G Unit crew saw Suge Knight and Irv Gotti walking past their trailer, and that was enough to put them on high alert.
I wouldn't say we were scared, but it was the Vibe Awards when we seen Suge Knight and Irv Gotti, and they walked past the trailer.
50 Cent didn't take any chances. He told his people to go and buy several knives just in case things went south. And clearly, they weren't wrong to prepare.
50 just look at James Cruz, so he just taps James Cruz and say, yo, go buy 20 knives. Yeah, just go to the hardware store. It was about 20 to 15 of us, something like that. Suge Knight got like some crazy looking Compton looking dudes with him, you know what I'm saying? So it just, you felt the energy.
In the end, Tony Yayo ended up receiving 3 years of probation and was ordered to do 80 hours of community service. Despite all of Suge's efforts to sabotage him, Dre kept winning. With the backing of Jimmy Iovine, plus his collaborations with artists like Eminem and 50 Cent, Dre reached new heights in the industry. Snoop, too, managed to stay safe from Suge's wrath, thanks to his connection with Master P, who helped him transition to No Limit Records. Meanwhile, Suge's empire was crumbling. He went from being one of the most feared figures in hip-hop to a man constantly dealing with lawsuits, financial problems, and declining influence. Eventually, his reckless lifestyle caught up with him, and he found himself behind bars, serving a 28-year prison sentence.